it is a little weird that we split people by male and female in this way.
It's extremely weird to split males and females in sports. And it's beautiful to see Neil deGrasse Tyson continuing to dig the hole deeper that he's dug himself in. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend, where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters. Have you ever heard the term useful idiot? It's where people who have a devious agenda, which kind of means it's something that is in their best interest that is going to be at the expense of other people. The tyrants, the elites, detracting from the people to serve their own agenda. Now, a useful idiot is someone that the elites, the globalists, use as a trusted figurehead in order to gain the trust and therefore manipulate the thinking of the people to obedient comply with the agenda of the elites. Neil deGrasse Tyson, my lovely friends, is in fact a useful idiot. He's not a useful idiot because his IQ is like 13, kind of like Joe Biden-esque version of a useful idiot. No, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a highly intelligent person. He, though, has earned himself a position on the useful idiot Mount Rushmore because he sold out. Not because he's dumb enough, can't function on his own, doesn't know he's being used. No, he has sold out, and he is absolutely doing the destructive bidding of the tyrants who have this dangerous gender ideology, who are trying to destroy objective truth, reality, and morality. So, our friend Neil deGrasse Tyson has been on a tear lately, trying to just brainwash people into believing, men should be able to compete in women's sports as long as they say they're a woman. And it's ridiculous to think that there's like distinctions between the genders. It should be a continuum. It's a spectrum. So I want you to believe that because I am a trusted scientist. We haven't seen a scientist do that before, have we? Oh yeah, Fauci did that. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is basically doing that. A couple weeks ago, covered another Neil deGrasse Tyson, just ridiculous propaganda campaign. And you can see the thumbnail of that video here. Could he be less scientific? Almost 250,000 views. By the way, shout out. Proof that Obama is gay has 1 million views on it, because people are interested in that topic. Now, at the time I made that video, I thought this is going to be one and done. Like he said something stupid. Like, I know what he's doing. He's the mouthpiece of the tyrants. He's sold out. But like, that's all he's going to say. Like he's clearly discrediting himself when he talks like this. So I'll make one video. But ladies and gentlemen, the plot has thickened. He has doubled down. There's another interview I want to show you some clips from where, what he did a couple weeks ago in that previous reaction video. It's kind of like, hey, hold my beer, past self. I'm going to make myself look even more discredited and more of an idiot, because that's my job. I'm a useful idiot. So let's take a look. And by the way, these clips come from an interview that Michael Shermer did with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And they're talking about gender, men and women's sports. And Michael Shermer, you can tell like he thinks with this thing called common sense. And he does acquiesce along the way. He doesn't boldly stand up for truth, but he's kind of like, bro, you kind of sound like an idiot there. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson insults him. So let's take a look at some of the highlights.
Where the rubber meets the road is conflicting rights. So just use the specific example of the female swimmer from Penn State, Leah Thomas,
who inspires me, by the way. Brave.
Who was a male to female trans, who for the first 3 years of college swam on the men's swim team, and then identified as a woman, took the year off by the NCAA rules, took the testosterone suppression treatment and so on, and then re-entered and pretty much dominated.
Pretty much dominated. That's an understatement. Leah Thomas was a good swimmer, ladies and gentlemen.
So there, of course, I agree with you on freedoms and liberty and do whatever you want. But where you have conflicting rights is between the right for her to compete as a woman, as she identifies as, against other women, and the right of women to compete against biological women who don't have the same bodies.
Wait a minute, women's rights? I thought, no, we're not doing women's rights. We're doing men's rights over women's rights, as long as those men say they're women. That's what we're doing here, Michael. And Neil agrees with me.
Because once you've gone through puberty, those massive changes have been made. I don't know if you've seen those examples that I just gave, but he's huge. big shoulders, long arms and legs and so
Big
on.
pecker.
The changes have already happened. Now the NCAA is saying, well, maybe we should reconsider that rule about 1 year of
So you bring up sports.
Yeah, okay. So, Neil, now it's your turn to just violate all your own scientific principles. Please go on.
Very important, because that is a frontier that is still in progress about how they're going to handle this. We can all opine at this point, and I can opine as well.
I feel opined in this moment. I can tell you that.
I can say things like, maybe sports is not genderized, okay? Maybe sports is harmonized. So
what he's starting to speak about is maybe, to make scientific progress here, instead of genderizing sports, we harmonize sports, meaning we create categories that are hormonally based instead of gender based, which is brilliant because genders have categorically such different hormonal profiles that, like, we could replace that, genders that are already hormonally categorically different, and replace that with just hormonal categories, because it will help accomplish the same thing, only less well.
So you compete in hormone categories.
Oh, hormone.
No, you compete in hormone.
Yes. Right.
You hormonize. You like that? See what I did there? I don't have the definitive answer yet, and every one of these ideas needs to be fully explored for what the consequences are. But holding aside the physical difference between people, which I'll get to in a minute, the post-puberty physical differences in height and hand size and leg size and this sort of thing. So holding that aside for a moment, I can imagine a day where the Olympics is a continuum of hormone ratios, testosterone to estrogen, whatever is the key hormone.
So, cool. Instead of men's and women's Olympics, we have the Olympics that are based on a continuum of hormonal profiles. What a great advancement that would be.
And you compete in a hormone category. That's not so weird.
Mm-hmm. It's a little
wrestled.
Weird.
Okay. But by the way, does testosterone matter if I give you more testosterone?
When he just said, does testosterone matter? I really want to highlight the brilliance of that question. He's going to expand more in a second. But does testosterone matter as it relates to sports? Of course testosterone doesn't matter, Neil. That's why anti-doping agencies test for elevated levels of testosterone, because it matters so little. They want to make sure that athletes aren't competing with elevated levels of a hormone that doesn't matter. That's why they test for it. It doesn't matter.
Will you become a better Olympic gymnast, on the floor exercises? I don't know.
I actually do know, Neil. I appreciate the fact that you don't know. You're very humble to say you don't know if elevated testosterone would help a female gymnast competing on the floor exercise. So it's a sport that, along with coordination and exquisite motor control, it depends on strength and explosiveness for them to move their bodies through time and space. Testosterone is a hormone that increases strength and explosiveness. So does testosterone make a difference in gymnastics? Yes. Yes, it does, Neil. And that's also why anti-doping agencies drug test gymnasts to make sure they don't have elevated levels of testosterone. You're welcome for that insight, Neil. Obviously, you're a world's top scientist, so they didn't cover one of the most basic hormones in the human body in all your scientific studies. So glad I could help.
There's some things that women do that the men don't do.
Like menstruate and get pregnant?
The men sort of physically can't do. Okay? So we'd have to figure out how to create this continuum. It is a little weird that we split people.
That's interesting. We would have to figure out how to create this continuum, which kind of implies the obvious. It would have to be created because it's not something that exists. It's not something that's true. It's not a biological fact that gender is a continuum. So we'd have to create it. I doubt he knows what he just said.
Pulled by male and female in this way. I'm imagining 100 years from now looking back and saying, do you know, back 100 years ago, they split boys and girls and they couldn't compete. And I was like, that'd just be kind of a little weird.
It'd be very weird. I also imagine 100 years from now, the opposite scenario, where more enlightened people are looking back on us today being confused about gender and thinking we can just change our gender by changing our mind and believing there's 73 genders. I imagine a reality where people look back and say, that's weird.
I don't know, Neil, because
Now, really important scientific phenomenon that I want you to see. Michael Shermer, he's going to come from a place of truth. He's super polite with Neil deGrasse Tyson. So he's going to push back on him just with common sense. And here's the scientific phenomenon to watch. Watch how Neil deGrasse Tyson simply insults him. Because Michael Shermer points out something, it's logical, it's based on truth. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, here as he's leaving his scientific principles and going into the land of propaganda where he's just like, hey, I'm a useful idiot, propagating this narrative that has no scientific basis. Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't have a logical argument for what Michael Shermer is going to say because there is not a logical argument. So Neil deGrasse Tyson does what any good activist does. He simply insults him.
I can imagine thinking how weird that is.
I can imagine that too. But the differences are so massive. On average, again, I've seen the pictures of you as a
which, by the way, his other strategy is just try to interrupt the hell out of someone raising a good point.
college wrestler.
Listen to me.
But the
Yes,
average woman is not going to be able to take the average woman wrestler is not going to be able to take down you when you were in your
It's
probably
coming.
maybe the
Michael,
best female.
You sound
wrestler.
like you're an old man on the porch in a rocking chair right now.
Wow. You're an old man on the porch in a rocking chair right now. That's his way of saying you're an idiot for saying that thing that's true that my irrational propaganda can't defend logically. So I just insult you. It's great. It's great. Man of science right there, ladies and gentlemen. And then this part is just something I like.
We could do whatever you want, but when there's conflict, that's where the rubber.
Right. So
Stress, he's rubbing his eyes, his face. That's a stress response. And it's kind of lie detector sort of thing, body language experts kind of thing. When someone's telling a lie, they're inherently in a place of stress. They're having to make things up in a way that are in line with the other BS they made up. Now, telling the truth, it's not stressful because you don't have to create anything. You don't have to think about anything. You don't have to line up the dots to cover the misconceptions or manipulations that you've already expressed. But the guy looks stressed and he's going to say something very profound.
again, I'm sort of making this up as I go along.
We can tell you're making this up as you go along, Neil. But trust the science. He is a man of science. He knows more than you. He knows more than I do. We should stop belittling ourselves with our own critical thinking and thinking that we could possibly be right when a man of science, an astrophysicist, is telling us what's true. Even though it doesn't make any sense, and he says it should just be automatically believed. Because if you're not believing it, guess what? You're just an old man on a porch in a rocking chair. That's all you are. Thank you for talking down to us, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I appreciate these new scientific revelations that you're enlightening us with. So, dear freedom lover, I appreciate you taking a look at this ridiculous, and I would call it hilarious display of a man of science who is actively discrediting himself because he sold out in some way. It's mysterious to me how and why he sold out, but he certainly has, to do the bidding of a dangerous gender ideological agenda that completely violates his own principles. We have hypocrisy in action. It is hilarious when we can see it. It's dangerous when it's happening and we don't see it. We see lying. We see self-contradiction. We see someone violating their own principles, which you only do if you sell out. And it's beautiful to see when someone's doing it because it helps us realize that is not a trustworthy person. I'm glad I see them doing it because it means I will not be fooled by them. And with Neil deGrasse Tyson just doubling down on this, by the way, we'll be following this story for the next dumb thing he says. But it reminds me of an Albert Einstein quote who says, "It is much easier to fool people than it is to convince people that they've been fooled." Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I would categorize him as a fool. I don't think he's been fooled into believing this gender ideology that he's propagating. I truly believe he does not believe what he's saying. He is simply saying it. Where he's been fooled, somewhere along the lines, he was fooled into selling out. It was probably much easier to convince him to be fooled than it would be to convince him that he has been fooled. So I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you being on Team Truth and Reality, Team Freedom with me. And with that said, I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video, my freedom-loving friend. But before you go, I want to tell you about something. You know that I love Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. I'm proud to have them as one of my longest running sponsors, but more importantly, Magnesium Breakthrough has been a complete game changer for my sleep as well as my mood and relaxation. And if you've never tried it, now's your chance. So listen up. Because this month only, you can get a free bottle of the best-selling full-spectrum supplement that contains all 7 forms of magnesium that your body craves in exactly the right balance. Bioptimizers are offering a 14-day sleep challenge. For my viewers, they're offering a free 14-day supply of Magnesium Breakthrough. All you have to do is pay for the nominal shipping fee. That's it, no strings attached, no other purchases required. The challenge is simple. Just try Magnesium Breakthrough for 14 days and experience all the positive changes. And if your sleep and energy aren't skyrocketing by the end of 14 days, you've lost nothing. And if they are, you're back on track. To get your free bottle, just go to magbreakthrough.com/JPReactsFree and enter coupon code JPReacts10. That's it. And lastly, Bioptimizers wouldn't be giving away these bottles for free if they weren't 100% confident in how effective it is. I think you'll enjoy it. And once again, to get your free 14-day supply and start the challenge right now, just go to magbreakthrough.com/JPReactsFree and enter the coupon code JPReacts10. Enjoy.